Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and today I was going to show you a few different little things, but there's one that's right out in front of us that is a big, huge elephant in the room, and it needs to be talked about. And it is you can never discount the lessons from history, and one of the lessons from history that's going on right before our eyes is how the on-the-ground retail stores are going out of business, and how that relates to digital assets and cryptocurrencies, because boy, does it relate. Now, if you remember this, in the last day, we've started to see about the Sears and Kmart stores that are closing. Well, for anybody that was being intellectually honest with themselves over the last, say, 10 to 15 years, that uses Amazon on a daily basis to order things, all of us do. In fact, while I'm thinking about it, I wanted to ask any of you that order your coffee, your K-cup for coffee on Amazon, I'm looking for a really good coffee. So anybody that wants to put in the comments section, I was going to order some coffee from Amazon, and if you've got an idea for one that's really good, I'm looking to try. I wanted to start trying some different coffees off of Amazon until I could find one, and then they have a thing set up now where you can just subscribe and have them send you your coffee every month. And so, but I'm looking for the perfect coffee. I like the roast coffees and some of the stronger stuff. But anyway, not to get sidetracked. But if there's not a lesson here, this is something I was saying 10 and 15 years ago. It's just a matter of time. Once Amazon started really figuring out online shopping and all of this, the writing was clearly on the wall. And I've told my wife over the last 10 years that there's really no reason to have any retail stores. The only stores that you're going to see on the ground over the long haul now is going to be grocery stores where you've got food that needs to be kept fresh, and you're going to see restaurants, and then you'll see a handful of other probably like service oriented businesses, like, car repair places and stuff like that. But in terms of having physical product on shelves and shopping malls, who needs that? Who needs the overhead associated with that now that Amazon and companies like this are able to send product the way they are? But we need to understand how important what's happening with retail and technology, Amazon and companies like that, having destroyed an entire industry, which is what you're seeing. This is a literal map of the store closing. Now think about what has changed. Now, on the surface, that looks like a horrible thing, that all of these jobs are being lost, and yeah, it probably is. Jobs being lost on the ground and in these communities. But at the same time, technology is creating new ways that people who take care of their families around the world are going to have to find out some of the new ways to make a living. And I'll give you two examples right off the top of my head. You can go out right now today and sign up as an Uber driver. Not in every town, but a lot of towns. You can go up, in my town, they just got the Waiter app. And then you've got Lyft, which is another similar thing to Uber. There are a lot of ways having to do with the internet that are coming about that are ways to make a living. Now, I don't want to get off on that tangent too much, but I want to make the point that technology literally turned the on-the-ground retail business on its head, and it's a matter of time. It's going to be completely destroyed. Just a matter of time. Well, let's look at first of all, I wanted to point out that I started to notice what Walmart was doing. See, Walmart's smart. They started opening these Walmart neighborhood markets a few years back, and they did it I knew the second I saw one of these, I knew what they were doing. They knew that the hourglass was going out of sand when it comes to on the ground retail products that don't have to be fresh like groceries. Why would you have the overhead of a huge building with all those shelves and all of that infrastructure when someone can push a button from their home and have it sent there and get it to your house within 24 hours sometimes? Why would you do that? It makes no sense. But what does make sense and will always make sense is having on the ground grocery stores where you can go and get food if you're out of milk or whatever. That will make sense. And so Walmart started doing this, and I started noticing these popping up everywhere. It's genius. And if they're doing the other thing in a genius way, they're physical products that don't need to be on the ground stores. They're probably taking a really hard look at how Amazon does things and copying it. That's what I would be doing if I was Walmart. But let's look. To me, it's always very interesting to look back at what all of the genius commentators and technologists and economists and all were saying about what we're now seeing on the ground. We're seeing these companies being replaced, and we're seeing the technology replace a lot of these things. But there are so many in every technological wave. You see so many old school people, some that are on the payrolls of maybe the interested parties that don't want to go out of business, and they come out and they say various things that about how these technologies will fail and all this. This is an article you're looking at from Newsweek, February 26, 1995. The first thing I wanted to point out in this article is that it's almost the same way I mentioned Nouriel Roubini yesterday, who's bashing cryptocurrencies left and right, almost as if he's on someone's payroll. It's not just that he disagrees with the technology. It's like a viciousness, and it's almost like he's got an entire campaign. It's almost like a funded campaign that to go out and bash them to try to convince the public that cryptocurrencies are awful and they're not going to work and this and that. Well, this article, this guy who is not near as ferocious as Nouriel Roubini about all of this, why would you write a sentence that says what the internet hucksters won't tell you is that the internet is one big ocean of unedited data without a pretense of completeness? Now, what he's referring to there is back when the internet first started, you do a search and some of your search results were not ideal or didn't have the first result may have nothing to do with the second. But the point is he's referring to basically people who were believers in the internet as hucksters, whereas we've been called, what does Nouriel Roubini call us? He calls us all kinds of names. Here's an article from him. Well, he doesn't say it in here, but on his Twitter feed, Nouriel Roubini has called us any liars, scammer, anything you can think of. We've been called. Back to this article, though. In this article, they were referring to the people that were into the internet as hucksters. Well, this guy that wrote this article, his name's Clifford Stoll. I'm going to read to you what he had to say, not about Amazon specifically, but Amazon pretty much embodied online retail and online sales. But here's what he had to say about at the time they called it the cyber business. He says, then there's cyber business. We're promised instant catalog shopping, just point and click for great deals. We'll order airline tickets over the network, make restaurant reservations, and negotiate sales contracts. Stores will become obsolete. So how come my local mall does more business in an afternoon than the entire internet handles in a month? Even if there were a trustworthy way to send money over the internet, which there isn't, the network is missing a most essential ingredient of capitalism: salespeople. So this guy is talking about someone who could not have been more wrong. This guy completely missed it. And so now we're in the digital asset age. And now we have new naysayers. We have new but now it's an even bigger deal. And the reason it is because now we're dealing with a different enemy. Now we're dealing with the banks, because make no mistake, digital assets are the internet of value, but they're the internet of money. Whereas the back then with the internet, when it first came about, it was the internet of information. It was the Google typing in an answer to a question and being able to get that answer in 3 to 4 seconds and be able to write a report on the information you got for school or whatever. Now we're talking about being able to type in the amount of money we want to send, and it going from my bank account to your bank account, no matter where your bank is in the world. This is disruptive. This is not for the purposes of replacing retail stores on the ground. It's bigger than that. This right here, if the banks and the financial institutions of the world do not figure this out early enough and do kind of like what Walmart's doing now and molding a new strategy so that they can work with what's coming, it will destroy the banks and the financial institutions that don't. And make no mistake, when you see people like economists that are on a mission, this guy's not, Nouriel Roubini is not a guy that's just out here saying he disagrees with it and here are the reasons why. He's out there, I mean, he's got venom. He is angry. He's calling people that are believers names and nasty names and calling them Nazis and all kinds of crazy. Go to the guy's Twitter feed. It's unbelievable. This guy is viciously attacking it, almost as if he's a hired gun. Not saying he is, but I know for a fact the guy gets paid to do things having to do with finance. And if there's ever been anybody who has come out shooting with several guns against something, and I'll tell you, if I were the banks and I had no intention, if I were the financial institutions of the world and I had no intention of molding my company to work with digital assets, this is how I would probably react. Because make no mistake, I've said it over and over and over, digital assets, it's the death of banks if they don't change their businesses to work with digital assets, and they'll be replaced. There will be no need for them. And so, moving along, as I told you yesterday, I told you yesterday that you've got in your town, you've got the Caldwell Bankers, you've got State Farm, Allstate, you've got Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley. You can go and you can get insurance or investment products. Well, coming to a town near you could be Coinbase digital assets in your community, or it could be Binance of your town. Who knows? These companies may begin to franchise that same way. You could have Merrill Lynch digital assets in your town, or it could just stay Merrill Lynch, and that could just be one of the products that they bring under their roof. I believe they're going to keep them separate because of the different regulatory environments having to do with those businesses, but it's coming. This is an article where crypto exchange Coinbase just opened an office in Dublin. So Dublin now has a Coinbase office. Things are getting interesting. I want to give some credit here. At BONCRYP, BondCrypt XRP, sent me this today. This is what I've titled this video. Ripple XRP, we're about to see a revolution. Those are not my words. Those are the words of the Bakkt CEO who was in an article from today. The quote, we're about to see a revolution. The Bakkt CEO was being interviewed. Kelly Loeffler, the current CEO of Bakkt Exchange, announced via a post on Bakkt's Medium blog that Adam White, a former vice president and general manager at Coinbase, would be joining Bakkt as a COO in November. As a part of the interview with Fortune, she said, the digital market is fragmented, and that we were about to see a revolution on the same scale in cryptocurrencies. She was referring in that to the digital market back in around 2000 with the energy markets. But the point is that she said we're about to see a revolution in cryptocurrencies. I keep carrying this baton, and I will not stop, because that is exactly what we're about to see. I wanted to finish this video by explaining. I wanted to show you this tweet by C3 Nick this morning, at C3_Nick. Go follow him if you don't. Or no, the tweet was from yesterday. But this is important, because right now XRP, part of what helps all of us as XRP holders, we want more and more and more liquidity. And the way we're going to get more and more liquidity is to make XRP the base pair on all of these exchanges. From the beginning of digital assets, when this all started, the base pair was always Bitcoin. Bitcoin has only gotten to where it is because they have had the benefit of being the base pair all along. But as he says in this tweet, we see Ethereum is not able to scale, Bitcoin is not able to scale, and now Tether is in a weird state. It's time for XRP as a new base pair. And he's naming all these exchanges where they need to create XRP as the base pair. When you are the greatest digital asset ever created, and you're the fastest and you're the most scalable, and you're the best in all categories, and you're the cheapest, you're the best in all categories, all of these exchanges, and you as XRP holders should be asking these people, go to Twitter, email them, do whatever you have to do. You should be asking these people, why do you not have the greatest digital asset ever created as the base pair on your exchanges? Bitcoin's not doing anything to deserve that status. It never did. The only thing it ever did to deserve that status is that it was the first mover, period. It was the first one on the scene. Aside from that, it does none of these businesses any good to have that as their base pair instead of XRP. XRP should be the lead base pair on all of these exchanges. And they should use XRP in the movement of money for their exchange, because it has all the advantages. That's just the way it works when you're the greatest digital asset ever created. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Subscribe, hit the like button. I'm going to be here as we watch all of this unfold and we all end up in Liechtenstein. Thanks for listening.